Hi, I'm Jenny Townsend with the Stroke It podcast. This podcast is for individuals that are kicking off their career, newly married, or experiencing their midlife crisis. We are going to talk about how to stroke the individuals in your life. That's right. It's all about you, your partner, employee, employers, friends, and family. Stroking one's ego can enhance your relationship and more. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get to stroking it.
Well, hello, I'm Jenny Townsend with the Stroke It podcast. I'm excited to talk with my guest, Liz. Liz and I have been friends for over a year now, and we met through Know Women, which has been a great group. For me personally, I've been able to align myself with like-minded women that are going places. A lot of them are more successful than me, and which is great because I'm aligning myself with women that can help me get to the next level, which is great. So the Stroke It podcast obviously caters to those that are just starting their corporate America gig, newly married, or maybe experiencing their midlife crisis, and they need to get back to the fundamentals and back to them. So our podcast is all about stroking those individuals in your life, which will enhance your relationships. And a lot of my guests are experiencing their own struggles and their own highs. And a lot of them are from different ages and stages in their life. And so I've got Liz today with us, and Liz is an HR director as well. Liz, will you tell us just a little bit about you and what your expertise are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to correct something real quick. I'm an HR business partner, so I'll make sure our audience knows my exact title. But I've been an HR director before, so I've had all the titles up and down the chain. So I'm Liz Cotner, been practicing the field of HR for 15 years now. Love what I do. Very passionate about the field of HR. It's ever ending and ever evolving, if you will. The season of life I am in is a first time experience for me. So I've always been a career-oriented woman. I've been in corporate America for 15 years, and now I'm a new mom. And so I have a 20-month-old toddler, August John, love him to pieces. So it's really figuring out how to not necessarily balance all that, but how to integrate all of that. I typically stay away from the word balance. I don't think we're ever going to be balanced. So integrate is my buzzword for tonight. So I'm in midlife, mid-career season. I'm 37. I'm going to be 38 in January, and we'll see where it goes from there. Only up from here.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I was just interviewing another mom as well, just right before you as well, and kudos to you. I don't know how moms do it. Her and I were talking about, creating the morning routine and doing this for ourselves, and so many parents basically have to put themselves second because they have to make room for their child and everything. So, and I own a child-based business, so I can't even imagine doing all of those things for children, and much less having to pay for them as well. So anyway, so kudos.
It's expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So kudos to you. So, all right, so let's get right into it. I think when it comes to stroking individuals and validating and, showing appreciation, it's important to know the love language of the individuals that are in your life, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your friend. Obviously, employers, employees, you don't want to be doing personal touch when it comes to love languages, but there are love languages that are really important that we all understand. And your love language is words of affirmations, which is similar to mine as well. So give me some examples of words of affirmation that really align with you, that people maybe can say to you or can talk to you in a certain way that make you feel appreciated and valued and loved.
Yeah, so words of affirmation actually comes from when I take a look back throughout my childhood years and into the adult years, comes from abandonment issues. Actually, I'm very open about that, so I don't hide anything, as you know, and not having the attention when I was growing up as an only child. So I'm an only child, blended family, divorced family, very complicated. I have no half siblings, just me, myself, and I. And so what I really appreciated because of the lack of attention were the words of affirmation, whether from my mother, father, a friend. And so a couple keywords that really put me up is, Liz, wow, you did a great job presenting. So I really like facilitating discussions, personally and professionally, or, hey, Liz, I love that advice you gave me. That just reaffirms that I listened to whoever I was talking to. Two, I took thought and I processed what they said and I gave it my whole heart. And I don't do anything, as you may know, you see me at tennis practice, I'm out there, whacking balls and getting all my aggression out. I don't do anything less than 125 million%.
Yeah.
And so with that, words of affirmation just confirms to me in my head that I heard the person. And that's really important to me, because we're running in a life right now, or many seasons of life for all of us, where we're not always heard. We're doing a lot of the talking.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I've stopped talking so much. Actually, I picked a word for the year 2 years ago, and the word was listen, because I found myself talking so much and not really listening to people. And I found when I was able to listen, I was able to learn from them, understand them, and connect in a different way than I had in the past, which has been really eye-opening for me and for the relationships. And I feel like this whole concept really has been able to come full circle because of I've stopped talking so much and started listening, which is validating to a lot of people as well. So it's actually been able to help with some of the relationships. So do you find that the words of affirmation goes into your personal life and your professional life? And go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely, Jenny. And because I practice in the field of HR, words of affirmation, along with listening, since we're kind of toggling in that topic too, are key, because again, it's that self-check that, okay, I did that negotiation correctly. I heard what the client said. I'm listening to my department heads, the VP, a COO, and I'm understanding and I'm interpreting correctly to either move the business, or maybe it's in my marriage with Sean. Been married for 9 years and 8 years. He's going to kill me. That's the wrong number. It all blends together. It just all blends together. And a lot of probably up until we had August John 20 months ago, we were not listening to each other. We weren't hearing each other. We weren't signaling. You could say I heard you, but when you really hear somebody, like we've been saying, you're not talking. So it could be a love letter from Sean. It could be public recognition in my field, either on the job or with HR Florida State Council. That all means a lot to me. Again, it's that affirmation that, yeah, I heard this person and we're on the same page. One of the terminologies, if you will, that I like to use is lock and step. And when I believe we're lock and step together, we hear each other, we respect each other, and we have trust. And if you're not listening, forget the trust is like out the window.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely get that. So do you feel like, since that is your love language, that you give a lot of affirmations to those in your life? And okay.
I do. I give a ton. And what I'm working on right now is moving away from text affirmations to doing video affirmations. So surprising friends back home in Michigan or in the Ohio area or anywhere, Florida, I don't really care where, Colorado, name it, is actually sending them surprise videos so that there's not only a visual, but that they can see my signals like, hey, I really miss you. Sounds and feels differently, of course, as we know, than a text. Hey, girl, I really miss you. I love sending those all day long. It just lets the person know I really am thinking about them. So I don't send them often, but I send them enough. But the video, I feel, is going to up a little bit. It's going to really continue to grow the relationships. And work, we have MS Teams all day long. Actually, people are fatigued from video at work and are now trying to move back to face, because again, the body language is there too.
Yeah, and that connection as well, and the way that you communicate. So I have started doing video texting to my staff members, actually, because I would always be texting, or I would, voice to text doesn't work for me. But anyway, so I started doing videos, and they're always like, send us more videos. Number one, we can understand clearly what you're saying. And they like seeing my face because I'm not always there as well. So it brings that, obviously, if you're sending it to people that aren't in Florida, they're getting to see your beautiful face too, which is awesome. So cool. I love those tips as well. So those that are tuning in, if you're wanting to connect with people, consider sending a video versus a text. I love that.
You get
Okay.
creative with videos too. You can do like a little song, a dance. You can make it fun. It opens the creativity that we don't get in other lines of communication. Email can be a little bit bland, even though I see people leaders now say LOL, which makes my heart just beat because I'm like, yes, there's personality behind an email finally.
Yeah. Well, and as you're saying that too, when you're saying how you can get creative with the videos, we all want to like kind of hate on the younger generation because they use Snapchat and they want to use all these other filters and things like that. But they are kind of getting creative with their videos, if you think about it in those terms, where they are fun and exciting and it's a way to connect. So I wasn't thinking about that before. I have a Snapchat account. I just only use it for a filter every now and then. So maybe I need to connect with my nieces on that. So okay, perfect. So I think the love language is really, really important. Same thing with my husband and I. We've been married for almost 10 years, and we didn't understand love languages until probably year 7, after a lot of shit had happened with our marriage. And my husband actually bought the love languages book, and then he bought the book for me to read. And it really has enhanced our relationship by understanding. For years, I thought nothing of love languages, and I would make my husband like lunch and smoothies, and I'd send him out the door, and then he would go to work. And during that time frame, he was in the gym working out, and that whole entire time he would have rather me been having quality time with him and having that time versus me making sandwiches, which obviously having that time together and understanding the love languages would have helped our marriage instead of taking it apart. So I think the love languages are really important, and they go into business as well. Like when I'm interviewing people, what is your love language? It may sound like a crazy question, but at the same time, I want to know. I had 2 people that worked for me, and one, his was quality time, and the other one, hers was acts of service. So I could have taken a $20 bill and offered it to both of them. And one would have said, I want to go to lunch with you. And the other one said, I'm going to go buy something with it. So being in HR and everything, I know that you're going to be able to talk a lot about that. Okay, so let's get into the first topic as far as like the stakeholders and stroking your friends and all that. Obviously, we all need friends that are going to cheer for us and that are going to be behind our back and really believe in us when we do not. And obviously, getting a message too is nice. But give us some examples of what you do to, be present, to validate, to listen, to help those relationships, and talk about some really successful relationships that you have and why they are successful.
Absolutely. So friendship has been a topic of mine that I take very near and dear to my heart. So I have kept the same circle of friends for anywhere between 15 and 20 years now. I very rarely like to turn over friends. Typically, if that happens, there's just a separation, wrong timing, wrong season of life, wrong miscommunication. So what I like to do is a couple key things I do. I fly frequently back and forth between Michigan and Ohio, which sounds crazy. You're like, you must have endless money. No, my dad has endless airline points. And so I'd love to say I make $1 million, but I mean, I'll settle for 6 figures right now. And I do not have endless Delta airline miles. So my dad really understands that my friends, specifically from the time of my Cedar Point era when I was in college working at the famous America's Roller Coaster Park in Sandusky, Ohio, that those people mean a lot to me. They were in a stage of my life where everything changed. I was actually first exposed to those who liked individuals of the same sex, right? And really was exposed to international workers for the very first time, which now I assist with our Australian expatriates. Like, it's so interesting to see how it comes full circle. So I frequently fly and drive to see people. There were times early in Sean and I's marriage where I would bring him up to Detroit and I would literally have us busy for 5 consecutive days visiting people. Because at that time, those people, and many of them are still around, really meant a lot to me and still mean a lot to me. For my girlfriends, it's sending, and I sent this to you, congratulation cards, or giving away a favorite pair of shoe that I can't fit into anymore. And I want to see someone else successful, right? Those glitter shoes. Sean still asks me about those Gianni Beanie shoes. And I'm like, my foot cannot fit. I got pregnant and it doesn't magically return.
If it does, I will give those shoes back.
No, all yours. The listeners probably have no idea what we're talking about, which is my favorite to have a side chat sometimes. It's phone calls. So making a concentrated effort of phone calls. The other thing that we do and we do well is we have people come to see us. So when the weather does change out across the United States, we open our home, and several people have taken us up on that. Whether they're coming for a night only, they're coming for dinner only. I've had my girlfriend Rita from Fair State. She works for Facebook in Detroit, and she was down in Tampa for a conference. She came in for 2-3 hours, and it was like we never lost touch. So because of that ongoing communication on both ends, it's been successful.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, and it goes both ways. And I know that a lot of times friendships, die off because you have one person that's always contacting, always sending notes and everything. And then that person at one point is like, okay, it's two-way street. I'm done. Like, and a lot of people go through different stages, and, sometimes you just can't be always a really great friend, but it is important to be that friend or not to give up on some of your friends. So do you feel that since you're such a great friend, are your friends reciprocating, and are they like doing stuff as well?
What $1 million question. Up until I would say we've been in our mid-30s.
Okay.
Then it's become more complicated. So from 2019 till now in 2022, I lost 3 girlfriends that I really considered highly valuable. They all 3 decided I did not need to be a part of their lives. And I'm still grieving some of that pain. These were friendships of 17, upwards of 20 years. They were there when my mom killed herself, and they picked up the pieces for me and collected all her how I say this, belongings. They were there at her funeral. I've been at their weddings. They've been a part of my weddings, and that's been really painful. And having no outlet to truly peacefully come together, and instead emotions got in the way, definitely on both sides, by the way, it's not a one-way street, has led me down the path, which we'll talk about last, which is the self, right? And how to help myself grieve that by not drinking, a 6-pack of beer or splurging on, $500 of new clothes, right? Using those external materialistic factors, but to settle within myself to say, okay, what were some of the missteps I made? And I would gladly apologize. And I think you know that about Jenny. I'm very apologetic. What can I do? How can I support? Those 3 women are not interested in this time. And that's just too bad. And I don't know if they'll ever come back around. And so those circumstances have made me reevaluate myself and the friendships I currently carry and where I'm putting the most value. And therefore, I've scaled down significantly. I used to have upwards of almost 1,000 friends on Facebook. That's down to like 290. I cut that stuff all the way down. I was like, no, this is a wake-up call for you, and you need to become aware yourself.
Yeah, I think that's huge too, when you're like, you have to become honest with yourself, and then like really look at the people in your life and say, do they belong here? No, let go. Or are they just like kind of eliminating you, and you just have to accept it and move on and understand, what, they're not really serving me in any positive manner anyways. And it's really hard, especially when you've been friends with people for 15, 20, and 30 years. Those are the friendships you think you're going to have forever, but sometimes they're just not serving. They're not serving you. And at the end of the day, like, not that I think everything has to be about you, but the people in your life do have to serve a purpose in your life, and then it does need to be positive and not negative. And I think as we grow, there are people that we do shed and we outgrow, and it is hard to say goodbye. I mean, I've have friends that for years didn't support me, and they did, whether it was jealousy or whether it was I became a different person and all those things. And it is really hard because you look back and you're like, I am a good person. I want to be your friend. I just want you to be supportive and be nice and be kind. And that's when it's really challenging and really hard. And you just do have to let go. So I think that you're an amazing friend. I think that you have been a really great friend to me. And I really want you to tell our listeners, because the cards that you send, I've gotten a few of them from you. Can you tell us what that link is or what that website is? Because I think those are brilliant.
Yeah, I can. Hang on 1 second. I want to pull one. Here they are. Okay. So there is, and I'm going to give her a big shout out. She is a no woman as well. Oh. And it's Spread Your Sunshine. And so if we're going to do a visual, So Spread Your Sunshine, and they have With Love and Sunshine, your number one fan. She created business cards. You are impressive, and says, keep shining brightly, sister. Yes, you're a shining trailblazer. And her name's Melanie, and I'm forgetting Melanie's last name, and I feel so bad about that. She came into my life through another Melanie Griffin. She's also the Florida Department Secretary. She's incredible, and she's an attorney by trade. And she created the side hustle, if you will, called Spread Your Sunshine. And it's like a 6-pack for $25. She does everything. She sends love notes. It's definitely more women centric.
Yeah.
And she even has one says, congrats, sister, you totally rock. And then you live a little, you love a little. And I've sent them multiple times to girlfriends to really say, hey, I see you. I'm recognizing you. And while you might be getting 800 comments on Facebook, here's something a little bit different. And I'm always looking for the different, right? So as an HR professional, I've struggled, and I know we're going to maybe curve into the employee side.
We are.
As an HR professional, I've struggled to fit in. I'm more progressive. I have 4 tattoos. I cuss. I get personal with people. And I've been told throughout my whole career up until almost damn near now to not do that. And I was, in essence, suffocating myself, which suffocates the marriage, suffocates the friendships, turned me into a crying mess. And I've gotten out every time, right? I've made it out every time. I've become resilient. But to have, a Spread Your Sunshine, a company where I can invest a little money to make somebody else feel so good inside is all I want to do. And that's why I'm in the field of HR. I just want to make, get people where they need to go, like a traffic controller. I feel like every day I'm a traffic controller, but I'm trafficking you to resources, where you need to go, how we can adjust our style, our approach, ask more inquisitive questions.
Yeah, no, I love it. I got, I think 2 of those cards from you, and they really did just brighten my day, and they put a smile on my face. And I think the snail mail is really, really important. I have a goal to send out 3 cards per month, whether it's a thank you, a hello, or a celebratory card. I definitely think it's really great. And I love getting those. And I know when I got yours, I was like, this is awesome. This is so great. So thank you for sharing those. And we'll drop those in the show notes as far as her website and links.
Yes,
so
please do. Please do.
So anyways, okay, so let's get into employee. I think it's really, really important. I know that you are in HR. I manage people. The employees are the heart of your company, and they really, really make or break the culture or the customer experience as well. And I think it's really important. I've been able to understand the love languages, understand our employees, which has made us have an amazing culture that I'm very, very proud of. And I know that some people leave jobs because they're not appreciated, they're not valued, no one's listening to them, or, just for a variety of different reasons. So I definitely want to talk about how you basically stroke the employees. Not by personal touch, obviously.
Nope.
but I definitely want to talk to some key information. So why it's important to stroke employees, validate, listen. Let's talk about the why first, and then I want to go into how you do it. I want to give some examples and some results as well. So let's talk about why it's important.
Why? Very simple, Jenny, because they're human. They're human. Even though they have, I'll call it a subtitle of being an employee, they're human, and they deserve to be stroked. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to be respected. And that goes for anybody, even up to the jerk in the organization or the person who is disengaged. I don't care what extra subtitle we put in there, because they're human. And that's why they deserve to be stroked, because we're all human. So that's why. It's nothing more complex than that.
And I think I totally agree with you as well. So let's give some examples of maybe how you have stroked employees, or maybe how your boss has really stroked you in the past. Let's talk about employees first, and let's talk about you and how that all goes together.
Absolutely. So the first thing, and it's the one of the many things that I know I do well because it comes natural to me, it's building the relationship. So, and within my career, I've always built a solid foundation with the employee base, the workforce, if you will. And when you're starting to build trust quickly, because I exercise transparency, I do not lie. I tell people exactly what's going on. Sometimes, yes, it can be a little bit more assertive than people think or are ready to receive. I'm honest. I don't lie. I am not interested in lying because I know how that feels. When I was younger in my HR career, manipulated, lied to, controlled, even in my middle years too. Not for me, and not for the human. Nobody wants that. Like, I have never met an employee who raised their hand and said, "Today, I'd like to be lied to." They're coming to HR saying, "I'm constantly lied to. My boss is a jerk. This person's a a-hole, this, that, and the other." And when you listen to that for so many years, it becomes very crystal clear as an employee, we need to stop doing that and start providing critical feedback or constructive feedback in a safe environment, whether the person likes it or not. But you can't do that without the build a relationship. So that's what I do. I build the trust out the gate. I also want to connect with them. And the company in Bradenton called Game On, I think it's Game On Nation, right? And so, oh gosh, they're now COO or CEO, Blair Bloomstrom, I believe. She did a leadership class when I was in the Junior League of Sarasota that blew my mind away. And the technique was called 5 coins. It has never left me. She is an amazing professional and human. And it was collecting 5 coins from your audience. And the one that I always go for is music. So that's the one that is a very common ground. Rarely is it argued, but it could be friendly banter. So I'm always going for the friendly, gentle 5 coins, which are, I think it was pets, music. It's the 5 common things that we have in common as humans. I'm sure there's family in there. It's been a hot second since I did that training in 2016. But I collect the coins. And when I collect them, then it engages them. The employees are now like, "Oh, well, what type of music do you listen to? Well, what about this? What about that?" Now we're having a conversation. Now we're engaged.
Right. And you're connected, which is really key on a personal level as well. Because I think a lot of times too, it's trying to understand, what do you have in common? What can you talk about other than work? Because sometimes it's like, if you start talking about work, maybe they do know what they're talking about. Maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Maybe that's not the right place for that conversation as well. So that's great. I love the 5 coin things. I've seen Blair at a couple of different events as well. Game On Nation is an awesome organization. So, okay. So trust, the 5 coins with connection. And do you have another tip or like another example that would be really great for our listeners as far as like connecting?
Sharing, yeah. The other thing I want to mention is being vulnerable yourself. So I like to call it transparent, but what I'm probably really doing is being vulnerable. I'll reveal that, hey, my mom committed suicide a couple of years ago. I'll reveal, on the side, I take piano lessons because, XYZ reason, right? And I got a girlfriend, Jenny, and I'll just drop little nuggets and not make it all about me, but being vulnerable and open. I'll even show emotion. I've cried in front of employees, especially when they're hurting, and I know they're hurting deeply. So it's being vulnerable to your comfort level. Mine's like full open doors. Not everyone's full open doors. So
yeah. And then I think that comes back to trust and then confidence and then fear of like judgment or fear like, oh God, am I not going to get a promotion because I opened up about something? Or are they going to think I'm a loose cannon because of this and that? So I think that's wonderful. And I like all 3 of those things as well. So what has been the results from you being vulnerable? What have been the results of other things that you mentioned that have been really great with, building the culture and building that trust with the employees?
2 specific examples come to my mind. Over the last year, I had an employee who needed to go on a leave for mental health reasons. And this employee was really ashamed of that. Crying on the phone, thought she was going to lose her job. Everything you would think an employee would say, said. And it's tailoring your yourself to mirror them. And we say that a lot in interviews, tailor your audience. Not always. I don't always believe in that philosophy, but I do when it comes to this type of situation. And so she went out, she explained her situation, which I told her, please don't. She did anyway, because I had the trust, right? I'd go on the production floor and say hi and interact with her. And she just had my heart. And so when she was hurting, I was hurting, but the trust was there. And we walked cohesively through her leave process. And she came back feeling so great and personally thanked me, which made my heart full circle, right? And this is the listening. This is hey, I heard you. You're not okay right now. Let me guide you through this process and give you all the tools you need, and call me anytime. And the employees, once you do it for one, they're going to go tell all of them. That's how it works in more of like a smaller company setting, maybe like 100 people on site. Even with maybe 500 people on site, 10,000 call, I don't care. You do right by one, you do right by two, you do right by three, you do right by all, right? And they're all going to talk, right? Especially when you're in HR capacity. The other time that comes to mind is more devastating. It's the Zota Beach Resort shooting that I often mention. To have built a brand new team of 125 amazing professionals, and 6 weeks later, it went to shambles in literally a 2-minute and 40-second shooting. 2 minutes and 40 seconds, to have the ability to filter all those panic calls, to be able to reestablish the culture, which I struggled with immensely, and I didn't make it. I ended up leaving in the end. So did quite a few people. Almost all 3/4 of the resort dumped out because it's so traumatic. I mean, that's like a whole nother level. But I use that example because you really had to have the trust. You had to show your own emotion in that one. There was no cross-cutting on that one. I was in tears. They were in tears. I argued with the Longboat Key police. They wouldn't let me on the property. I said, get out of my way. I'm the HR director. You need me. And it was a 14-hour long day, the day of the shooting. I've never want to go through that again, nor does anybody. But that's what it takes to build a relationship, to go through something so traumatic that all your employees are calling you. They're fearing their lives. They're fearing everything. And to be unlicensed counselor and HR leader during that changed me forever. I have never gone back to how I used to be in HR. It was actually the pivotal moment in my whole career.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. One more question as far as employee that I have for you. When you can think of your bosses in the past, your leaders, your direct reports, think of one, and how did it, like one of the best that basically made you feel validated, appreciated, they stroked you, things like that. Like, who was it? You don't have to say their name, but maybe what time of your life was it? And was that pivotal? And like, did that make you want to be that type of boss in the future?
I will say her name because I definitely want her to watch this podcast. Her name is Julie Cruz, and she is a learning and development manager in CAE out of our global office in Montreal. And she said something to me 2 years ago, within the last couple years, that no one in my entire career, and she's not my supervisor, has ever said to me. I had been interviewing quietly, it's now public knowledge, for in essence, a training development specialist, an organizational development specialist. I have a master's degree in training and development. And I was really excited, and I was not chosen. And how the last interview handled was not appropriate. And we rectified that. But Julie specifically said to me, why do you not think you could be a VP of organizational development? You have all the skills, Liz. Why would you not think that? And her new hashtag is Vote for Liz for President. And she lifted me up in a way no one ever in my entire professional existence has ever done that for me. And since then, that one line she said to me stuck so deep inside of me and gave me the confidence that no training course was ever going to give me, because she saw how I operate. She was part of a project and leading it at the time. And she really instilled, to this day, believes in me and has never given up. Goes back to words of affirmation, goes back to abandonment issues when I was younger by my parents. She could have cared less about all that. I don't even think she knows that. Now she does. Now does everybody listening to this podcast don't care, or I wouldn't be on here. But she is just an outstanding human. Her resilience and her leadership. I want to be like Julie one day. Okay. And she's a great, great cross collaborator.
That's awesome. I think it's great, because I always feel like there is someone that's going to be your boss, be your leader, that's going to inspire you to want to be that as well. And I have a couple in mind too that I've had in the past have been great. Okay, so let's move on to the third stakeholder that you selected, which is yourself. I want to know, at what point did you decide to make yourself a priority? And then I have a couple other questions, and we'll give some examples of what you do and how that's changed your life so much. But was there a pivotal point in your life, or was it recently? Was it some time where you're like, I have got to make myself a priority if I want to be good for myself, my husband, my son, and for my workers?
Yeah, that time came this March. So I got incredibly sick. By the way, for all our listeners, if you don't have kids, you have a baby and a toddler, you're going to get deathly ill. No one really warned me about that until it arrived. I had been in a different role in March, and the stress level was extraordinarly high. It was overwhelming, and I had caught everything August John had. So that was he had a pink eye, upper respiratory, what have you, right? And so we're outside shooting a 75th anniversary drone shot here in Sarasota at my employer. And I walk in and I turn to my colleague, Michelle, and I'm like, there's stuff leaking out my eye. I'm like, this is, whoa, where did this come from, right? I was getting sick as I'm talking to her. I am just in shambles. Go to the urgent care, get to the seat, with the doctor. She looks at me. She's like, you don't look so good. And I said, I'm so well aware. I have no voice. So I'm calling two of my people leaders at the time who've become just really great friends. Paul Messina, Gino Cervello. I dropped their names. They'll all listen, I'm sure. And they were very instrumental for me too. And they were like, this is not okay. You're not okay. And another person, Eugene Hebert, who actually helped me get the promotion to where I'm at now, they really made me so self-aware that, Liz, you're so sick. Your job is making you sick. You are sick because of your kid, your stress level, you're overloading yourself, like out. And so I stepped out of literally everything. I pressed very hard forward to get August John tubes in his ears because he was always sick. Check. I left work for a week. Check. I stepped away from my HR Florida responsibilities, which I've never done. If I quit, I quit. But if I step away, something's pretty wrong. And I ended up being diagnosed with delayed postpartum anxiety and depression, which I had no idea existed at month 13. I thought that was like, 6 weeks after. It goes up to 18 months. And I was diagnosed with that, and then slowly pulls. So I'm out of that phase now, or I'm out of that, but I'm also dealing with some leftover anxiety. And crap. It was such a crappy week of my life. And so I decided I needed a new role. I needed a brand new team. I needed to fully step away from any commitment. I needed to get my son better. And I needed to, and beyond all of that, that's a boatload. Oh, we lost her daycare for the third time. That happened too while I was dead on the couch. That also happened. Forgot that big moment. I needed a whole new life, literally. And I did that. I did exactly that. I got promoted, left the division. Certain friends bowed out naturally. We talked about that earlier. August got tubes, has only been sick once since March. Once.
If I had a drink, I would totally drink it for you.
Cheers. Daycare's going great. It's been around for 8 years. It's a growing facility, it's learning cottage. They're stable. I'm on the parent committee now. And because all that, my marriage has gone up exponentially. So we're communicating, there's more words of affirmation, but I was in a really bad spot. And I got myself out of that. And it took all those people I mentioned, plus my husband, plus several other girlfriends taking my phone calls and saying, I can't sustain anymore. I'm in the wrong environment. I'm not who I need to, I'm not me, right? This is terrible. Like, why am I crying all the time? Like, I know I'm a crybaby, but girl was crying. It was not so good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, you have to take ownership of your own life. You know, at the end of the day, like, you have to make yourself a priority, and you have to make the commitment to yourself, and you've got to schedule the time. You've got to make the investments, and you've got to basically outline what it is that you need and what you want, and then tell the people that are around you so that they can help and support you. So that's great that you had that support that you have, which is, we all need for sure. So what are some things that you incorporate in your life that now you're doing that make you happy, that provide, stress release, maybe help with the anxiety? What are some of those things that you're doing and incorporating in your life?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I walk anywhere between 10 and 12 miles on the weekends. So I take August John, hit up the celery fields. I do a really long, robust 6 miles per day, 10 to 12 overall. I signed up for the Disney Princess Challenge in February, and I'm doing that with a couple girlfriends. So what I'm telling you is I established fitness goals.
Okay.
Rolled in intermittent fasting. We have a tonal here in our house. So strength training, I literally can do it in my pajamas. Like, you couldn't be lazier if I don't get on tonal. So I did that. So I incorporated fitness because fitness is something I really enjoy doing. Zumba Sarasota. So I started with fitness.
Okay.
Then I thought, man, I have so many creative ideas. Where do I put all these creative ideas? So I bought myself, it's called a Clever Fox. And a Clever Fox plant planner, if you will.
Okay.
Has a vision board embedded. It's like $30 on Amazon, a vision board, goals, and it lets me dump all my creative thoughts, work and personal. So this is a work and personal feature I got. I carry it everywhere in its actual box. Like, it's just like prized possession. It's like an obsession almost now. But I open it and I'm like, did I prepare for that podcast? Did I come across a little bit too negative to an employee or a manager on just emotional accident? I don't know if there's emotional accidents. It's probably not true. But in my mind it is. So the Clever Fox. Then, because I started taking care of myself, piano lessons came in, right? So I kept opening up. I called you, Jenny, and I said, how do I make a vision board? I'm ready. When I started healing myself, I naturally was open to receiving gifts. And those gifts were piano lessons, swim lessons for August so he doesn't drown in our pool. It sounds funny, but for real. Clever Fox. Podcasts, right? I'm on my first one. Tomorrow's my second one. I got a third one in the queue. Let's do it. So I'm open to receiving. Now, tennis. Oh my God, I told you about tennis, right? You're like, hey, I play tennis. And I'm like, when am I joining you? And there I come, full bore, and looking at tennis lessons now too, because I watched you play and watch you do tennis lessons, which I love too. So that's actually how it's gone for me.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're committing so much time to yourself and making those investments. What do you think the results have been since you've started putting yourself as a priority? What have been some really good wins as far as like your mental capacity, emotional capacity, and as far as your marriage?
Yeah, let's do mental capacity. I sleep without a sleep aid naturally. So my body is winding down by 7:30 and I'm drop dead at 9:00. Like, forget it. If anyone tries to text me, it's like, I'll get you at 6 a.m. when you're asleep and I'm not. Sleeping has become very easy again. And that has been a big win for me. I usually sleep anywhere between 10 and 12 hours a night.
Wow, that's amazing.
I sleep and I nap every weekend. So when we go on the 6-mile walk, August will go down for a nap. Shit you not, I go down for a nap for almost 3 hours. So my body is resting. So I now can feel it naturally. I'm like, okay, the body needs to go down. Put your phone down, put shit down, get into a nap mode and let your body recover and rest. Huge.
Yeah,
huge.
that's amazing.
Mental clarity, because I integrated intermittent fasting at a slow progressive state with a 13-11, a 16-18. It's really time fasting. Mental clarity has come out. That has slowed me down as well. Different team. So I'm in a team of almost 40 HR professionals, not 5. Astronomically different from workload capacity, stress capacity, ability to cross collaborate and have so many people have your back. Game changer. Needed that. This is the right season for that. Marriage, sex life, every day. We have sex almost every day.
That's
so awesome. And usually in the morning, because I'm a morning person. I am not an evening person. And so that has been really good. So our sex life, and Sean needs physical touch. I think most men do, by the way. They want quality time. They want that physical touch, has gone through the roof. And I feel even more confident in my shoes in this season of life because of that.
That's awesome. That's really, really beautiful. I'm so happy for you. And that's just so great. That's why it's just like, self-care is so important, and making sure that you are 100% so that you can be something for other people, but so you have the energy and you have the mental clarity and the mindset. And at the same time, I just feel like you're just content and happy, which if you are happy, you can make others happy as well. And it's just so beautiful. And two, obviously it's helping with your marriage and being a mom and a lot of different things as well. So I really do hope that the listeners out there, choose themselves and make themselves a priority and make the investment. Piano lessons are not cheap. Tennis lessons are not cheap. The Clever Fox, people can get that on Amazon.
Yeah. And it's called Clever Fox.
Okay.
And like I said, it's $30, comes in all sorts of colors, but it forced me to sit with myself and dump all my creativity out, right? Some people get creative on TikTok. I share quite a few TikToks back and forth with some of my guy friends, and it's always a great time. And that even stirs up some dialogue too. But I needed a platform. And I could do this digitally, by the way. There's like 1,001 apps. I could do this digitally, but I forced myself to say, sit down, slow down, dump it out, think about it, consult your inner circle. Right now I'm making up names in terms of a Sarasota mom group on Instagram, right? We have like 2 in the area, and I'm like, no, we need something adventurous. I want something more. So in my head, I'm being a little entrepreneur, and I'm Googling, Instagram name generators before this call. And you wouldn't believe it. There's tons of, basic names like Sarasota Walker. I love to walk. And I'm like, there's not an Instagram for this, right? So you see the creative juices start going for me, right. Where when in my capacity as an HR professional, I can get consultatively creative, but I got to play in my parameters. And I hate that. I don't play well in a box. I was just telling my boss, Robin, she's amazing. I'm like, Robin, you can't put me in a box. I'll literally bust out of the box in 5 seconds. Like, you got free bird, free Liz, vote for Liz for president and hashtag free Liz.
I love it. I love it. And a lot of this is coming, all of this energy and a lot of this creativity is coming because you are now focusing on you and creating that space for yourself. Now, as far as getting up in the morning, I know that a lot of people too, I did a podcast a couple of days ago about morning routine and getting up, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 or 15 or 20 minutes early to create that time and space for you. Is that something that you do? Is that when you say you're a morning person? Okay. What's one thing that you do during that time frame?
Have sex.
Okay, perfect.
Plain and simple. I set the alarm with a 20-minute buffer. Absolutely. Sean's going to kill me letting everyone know it takes 20 minutes, but it's so true though, right? Absolutely. When I'm commuting to Tampa, it's 5:55. If I'm not commuting to Tampa, we set no alarm. And on the weekends, we're up because August is up at 7 a.m. So sex. I make sex a priority in the morning because at night I'm literally not coherent.
Yeah, no doubt. And I love it. And there is sex in this realm of stroke it concept. So I'm glad that you're bringing that to the forefront because I don't think very many people are going to pick that topic to talk about. So
I almost did. And then I moved it to the employee, but sex is an important topic and intimacy is, and your non-sexual relationships have intimacy too. So even with my guy friends, I'll text them, hey, I really miss you. I want to see you. And they know I'm not like trying to get with them. Sean may interpret that differently, but and it's not meant to be that way. But it's, hey, I'm being intimate with you, and I want to see you because I want to be a part of your world. You mean that much to me that I'm going to send that type of text. Or I love you and miss you to some of my guy friends back in Michigan. They know it's because, hey, Liz is reaching out and she wants to be a part of my world. And they know that.
Right. Awesome. Well, I loved all the topics that you talked about, and I love all the advice and all the tips and the tricks. And we'll make sure that a lot of these individual things that you mentioned are in the show notes. What's one thing, if we could leave our listeners and viewers with one tip or advice for stroking anybody in their life to better the relationship, what would it be?
And this is not for me, I'm quoting my husband, be a good steward in society.
Yeah.
Just be a good steward. I believe in that.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining with me. I really, really appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship, and I love your cards and everything that you do. And I wish you a beautiful evening, and I will see you on the tennis court soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Stroke It podcast. Make sure to follow us at the Stroke It Guide on Facebook and Instagram.